He built his cabin alone in the woods, but a solitary alien mother watched from the darkness. Ethan had always loved the quiet. The city, with its constant noise, endless lights, and people rushing everywhere, had never felt like home to him. He longed for a place where he could think clearly, work with his hands, and live without distractions. One day, after years of saving and planning, he finally left the city behind. He packed his tools, some food, and a few personal items, then drove for hours until the paved road ended and the forest began. Deep in the woods, surrounded by tall trees that seemed to touch the sky, he found the perfect spot. The sunlight filtered through the leaves in soft patterns, and the air smelled fresh and alive. He decided this would be where he built his cabin. The first few days were hard. Carrying heavy logs, chopping wood, and clearing the land tested his strength. Every morning he woke early, his muscles aching, but he felt a satisfaction he had never known before. He measured and cut each log carefully, stacking them in neat piles. He worked steadily, even when it rained or the wind blew cold through the trees. Nights were colder and longer than he expected, but he had a small tent and a fire to keep warm. Sitting by the fire, he often stared into the dark forest, listening to strange sounds he could not name. Owls called, leaves rustled, and sometimes there was a snap of a branch that sounded too deliberate to be just the wind. One evening, while hammering the last piece of the cabin's roof, Ethan thought he saw movement between the trees. A shadow flickered, fast and quiet, disappearing before he could look directly at it. He paused, holding the hammer in his hand, and listened. Nothing. His heart beat faster, but he told himself it was just an animal, maybe a deer or a fox. Still, he could not shake the feeling that something was watching him. That night, lying in his tent, he kept one eye open, wondering if the forest held more than just trees and animals. The next morning, he noticed something strange. A few of his tools were not where he had left them. A small pile of wood had been moved slightly. At first, he thought he had forgotten where he placed them, but the pattern repeated over the next few days. Each morning, some small change awaited him. A stick here, a stone there, something shifted. Ethan became cautious. He began to leave small marks to see if anyone or anything was moving things. Soon, he realized the changes were deliberate, almost careful. It was not a wild animal. Curiosity mixed with unease. He began exploring the surrounding forest more actively. Walking slowly, he noticed footprints unlike any he had seen before. They were large, oval, with deep impressions, and something about their shape did not belong to any known creature. He knelt, tracing the edges with his finger. The soil was soft and the prints were fresh. His mind raced. Could someone else be living in this part of the forest? Or was it an animal he had never heard of? He stood, scanning the trees, and then he saw her. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light. A figure, tall and slim, with skin that shimmered faintly under the dim forest light, stood partially hidden behind a tree. Her eyes, large and bright, seemed to glow softly. Her movements were careful, cautious, almost hesitant. Ethan froze. She did not look like anything from Earth. The shape of her head, the curves of her body, and the faint glow of her skin told him immediately she was something alien. He did not speak. He did not move. She did not come closer either. For a moment, they just looked at each other from a distance, two beings separated by different worlds, yet sharing the same forest. The figure vanished as suddenly as she appeared. Ethan stood for a long time, unsure what to think. Fear, wonder, and excitement mingled inside him. He returned to his cabin with his mind racing. Who was she? Why was she here? Was she dangerous? And most importantly, what did she want? That night, sleep was difficult. He lay in his tent, thinking of the glowing eyes and the strange, careful movements. Every sound of the forest made him tense. Yet beneath the fear there was fascination. He had discovered something incredible, something completely unknown. In the following days, Ethan continued building his cabin, but now he moved with greater awareness. He tried to ignore the feeling of being watched, yet it never left him. At times he would find small objects left near the cabin. A smooth stone, a cluster of glowing seeds, or a piece of bark carved in a delicate pattern. Whoever or whatever was leaving them seemed curious but not threatening. Ethan's curiosity grew. He began to leave little offerings as well, fruit, fresh water in a small bowl, and sometimes a simple pattern of sticks on the ground. It was a silent attempt at communication, a way of showing that he meant no harm. One afternoon, he was chopping wood near the edge of a clearing when he noticed a movement behind a thick tree. He lowered the axe slowly, trying not to startle the figure. She emerged, her head tilted slightly, observing him. Ethan realized she was studying him as much as he was studying her. She made no aggressive moves, no sudden gestures. Slowly, he nodded to her. She nodded back almost imperceptibly. It was a small, simple exchange, but it carried meaning. They were learning each other's ways without words, testing the boundaries of trust. Days turned into weeks. The cabin grew taller, sturdier, more comfortable. Ethan had a small kitchen area, a loft for sleeping, and a fire pit outside. His life settled into a rhythm of work and careful observation. The alien mother appeared more often now, always cautious, always watching. Sometimes she would leave gifts of small plants or shimmering stones at the edge of the clearing. Ethan began to feel that she was not just watching him randomly. She seemed to protect something, though he could not see what. His respect for her grew. He decided to return her gestures with patience and care. One evening, a sudden storm blew into the forest. Winds tore through the trees, rain poured in sheets, and the cabin groaned under the force of the storm. Ethan struggled to secure the roof, tying logs and reinforcing weak spots. As he worked, he caught a glimpse of her through the rain. She was at the edge of the clearing, moving with incredible speed and precision. She lifted fallen branches and placed them carefully, almost as if helping him without his noticing. Ethan stopped, amazed. He did not understand her abilities, but her intentions were clear. She wanted to help, not harm. After the storm, the forest was calm again, but the evidence of her presence remained. Broken branches had been stacked neatly, small areas cleared, and tracks in the mud led to places he could not reach. Ethan felt a growing connection, a bond formed through shared effort and mutual respect. They had both acknowledged each other's presence and abilities, though no words had been exchanged. For the first time, he realized that living alone in the forest did not mean being completely solitary. The alien mother was there, silent, patient, and protective. As the sun rose one morning, casting light through the mist of the forest, Ethan stood outside his cabin, breathing in the crisp air. He looked around, knowing she was nearby. He smiled, not with certainty but with hope. This place, this forest, had become something more than a home for him. It was a space of discovery, connection, and quiet wonder. The strange, glowing figure in the shadows was no longer just a mystery. She was a part of the forest's life, just as he was beginning to be. Ethan continued his work, his movements steady and purposeful. Every hammer strike, every log placed, was now performed with a sense of harmony with the forest and its hidden guardian. He had entered the woods to be alone, but he was learning that solitude could coexist with connection. The alien mother had taught him that presence could be silent yet powerful, protective yet invisible, and that respect was a bridge between different worlds. As the days passed, Ethan's cabin became more than a shelter. It became a symbol of patience, effort, and coexistence. He watched the forest closely, learning its rhythms and patterns. He observed her carefully, noting her habits and movements. He could not yet understand her completely, but he no longer feared her. Instead, he felt admiration, a sense of wonder at encountering life so different yet intelligent and gentle. The forest, once a place of isolation, had turned into a world full of unseen life and quiet companionship. One evening, after a long day of work, Ethan sat by the fire, listening to the forest sounds. Somewhere nearby, a soft glow flickered. He looked up and saw her eyes watching him, calm and bright. He nodded, and she responded with a slight tilt of her head. It was a simple gesture, yet it carried understanding, a silent acknowledgement of shared space and mutual respect. Ethan felt a warmth inside him, a feeling that he had never known in the city, a connection with life beyond human. And so, deep in the forest, the cabin stood tall, built by human hands, watched over by alien eyes. A silent partnership had begun, one of trust, curiosity, and careful observation. Ethan knew that the forest held more secrets, more challenges, and perhaps more surprises, but for now he felt at home. Alone, yet not lonely, he had found a rhythm with the wilderness and the solitary alien mother who watched from the darkness. The night fell, and the forest held its breath, as if waiting for the next day's discoveries, for the next steps in a story that had only just begun. Ethan had grown accustomed to the quiet company of the forest and the mysterious alien mother. Each day, he moved through the trees with careful steps, listening to the sounds around him and watching for signs of her presence. The forest felt alive in a way he had never experienced before. Birds and animals were present, but there was something deeper, a rhythm, a pulse, almost as if the forest itself was aware of both him and the alien mother. He began to notice small changes, the placement of stones along the stream, unusual marks on tree bark, and small glowing seeds arranged in delicate patterns near his cabin. These were her signs, her way of communicating without words. Ethan decided he wanted to learn more. He spent hours observing the forest from different vantage points. He would hide behind large trees or sit silently near his cabin, careful not to make a sound. Slowly, he began to understand her patterns. She would appear at certain times, usually in the early morning or at dusk. Her movements were deliberate and precise. Sometimes she seemed to be tending to something hidden in the shadows. Ethan grew more curious. He wanted to know what she was protecting, but he also wanted to respect her space. He decided that patience was the key. One day, while gathering firewood, Ethan found a set of glowing footprints that led deeper into the forest than he had ever dared to go. They were fresh, and the faint luminescence of the marks guided his steps. His heart pounded, but he followed them carefully, making sure not to leave his own trace. The footprints ended near a small clearing, hidden by thick bushes and towering trees. Peeking through the leaves, he saw her crouched over something. She was careful, almost reverent, as if guarding something precious. Ethan's curiosity grew, but he did not step forward. He simply watched, fascinated by the care and gentleness in her movements. Over the next few days, Ethan continued to leave small gifts near the edge of the clearing. Simple things like fruit, fresh water, or carefully arranged sticks. At first, he left them anonymously, unsure how she would respond. Each day, he found that she had interacted with his gifts in some way. The fruit would be moved slightly, water poured into a small depression in the soil, or sticks rearranged into patterns. Ethan realized she was communicating through action. This silent dialogue thrilled him. He began to respond with more intricate gestures, creating small arrangements of leaves and stones to show that he understood her presence and meant no harm. One evening, while he was repairing the cabin roof after a rainstorm, he saw her again. She stood at the edge of the clearing, partially hidden by shadows. Ethan froze, unsure if he should call out. She tilted her head, observing him calmly, and then slowly, deliberately, she moved closer. Ethan could see her features more clearly now. Large, intelligent eyes that reflected the fading sunlight, skin that shimmered faintly with a soft glow, and a delicate frame that moved with surprising strength and grace. He realized she was not a threat. She was curious, cautious, and intelligent. Ethan wanted to communicate more directly, but words would not work. Instead, he began leaving simple patterns in the dirt near his cabin, circles, lines, and arrangements that could carry meaning without language. At first, she ignored them, but gradually she began to respond. A line he drew one morning might be mirrored by her the next day with a slightly different pattern. Slowly, a silent, careful conversation developed between them. Ethan felt a connection forming, built on trust, patience, and mutual respect. It was not the same as speaking, but it was meaningful. One afternoon, as Ethan worked on a small wooden table inside the cabin, a sudden sound of snapping branches caught his attention. He looked up and saw her in the clearing, clearly agitated. Something had disturbed her. Ethan followed her gaze and saw movement in the forest, shadows moving quickly through the trees, shapes that were unfamiliar and threatening. Without thinking, he grabbed a long branch and ran outside, placing himself between her and the unknown intruders. She paused, watching him, then retreated slightly, leaving him to face the danger. The shapes emerged into the clearing. They were other creatures, similar to her but more aggressive in appearance. Their skin did not glow, and their movements were fast and wild. They seemed territorial, scanning the area as if searching for something. Ethan realized that whatever she was protecting, these creatures wanted it. Fear gripped him, but he pushed it aside. He could not let her be harmed. Using his tools and knowledge, he quickly set up simple barriers and traps around the clearing, hoping to slow the intruders. He did not understand everything about these creatures, but he trusted his instincts and intelligence. The first encounter was tense. The aggressive creatures tested his barriers, prodding and pushing with strength that amazed him. Ethan adjusted quickly, using logs, ropes, and rocks to create obstacles. The alien mother watched from a distance, occasionally moving to nudge a fallen log or shift a branch to strengthen his defenses. Ethan realized then that she trusted him. He felt a surge of determination. Together, though without words, they were a team. He could see that she was protecting something precious, and he understood that he must do the same. After the intruders retreated, Ethan approached her slowly. She did not flee. Instead, she moved to a spot he had not seen before, revealing a small, glowing pod nestled among the roots of a massive tree. Ethan's eyes widened. The pod was fragile, pulsing softly with light. He understood immediately that it was her child or something she cared for deeply. His respect for her grew. He had entered the forest seeking solitude, but now he realized that he had stumbled into a responsibility far greater than he had imagined. Protecting this life, in partnership with her, became his new purpose. In the following days, Ethan worked harder than ever. He repaired the cabin, strengthened the barriers around the clearing, and made sure that the pod was safe from prying eyes. The alien mother continued to watch from a distance, her presence both comforting and mysterious. Ethan noticed small interactions between them, subtle gestures that built trust. He began to understand her rhythms, when she came to observe, when she moved away, and how she communicated through actions rather than words. He admired her patience, intelligence, and care. One evening, after a long day of work, Ethan decided to leave a small gift near the pod. He carefully placed some fruit, a few clean leaves, and a carved wooden figure. Stepping back, he watched. The alien mother appeared slowly, moving with caution. She examined the offerings, then adjusted the leaves and fruit slightly, almost as if showing him that she appreciated the gesture. Ethan felt a sense of connection unlike anything he had known. They were learning from each other, understanding each other, and forming a bond built on trust and patience. The nights were quiet, except for the soft sounds of the forest. Ethan would sit by the fire outside his cabin, thinking about the day's events. Sometimes he thought he heard her moving nearby, but he never intruded. Instead, he respected her space, understanding that trust could not be forced. The forest, once a place of complete isolation, had become a shared home. He had come seeking solitude, but he had found a partnership, silent, cautious, and filled with mutual respect. As days turned into weeks, Ethan noticed small changes in himself. He was calmer, more patient, and more aware of his surroundings. He had become part of the forest, in a way, just as much as the alien mother had become part of his life. He observed the creatures in the distance, noting their behaviors, and learned to predict when the intruders might return. He crafted simple tools and traps, not for harm, but to protect the pod and maintain peace. Every action was deliberate, every movement careful. One morning, as the sun rose and mist lingered among the trees, Ethan saw her near the clearing. She was carrying something delicate, possibly food or water for the pod. Her movements were gentle, and her eyes met his briefly. In that moment, Ethan understood something profound. Intelligence, patience, and care could bridge even the greatest differences. Human and alien, two very different beings, could form a bond through respect and understanding. He felt proud, not of himself alone, but of what they were building together: trust, harmony, and a shared sense of responsibility. Ethan continued to strengthen his cabin, adding small improvements like a rainwater collection system and a sturdy table for working. He left small gifts and patterns near the clearing, observing her responses. Over time, the silent communication became richer. She seemed to understand his intentions clearly, adjusting her actions to show appreciation or caution. Ethan marveled at her intelligence and care. He realized that living alone in the forest was no longer just about solitude, it was about coexistence. One night after the forest had gone completely dark, Ethan lay in his loft, listening to the sounds around him. Somewhere nearby, he felt her presence. The air seemed to shimmer slightly as she moved, unseen but perceptible. He smiled to himself. They had come to trust each other, even without words. The pod was safe, and the forest felt alive with their connection. For the first time, Ethan felt that his life in the woods had a purpose beyond survival. He was part of something larger, a story of care, curiosity, and the quiet bond between human and alien life. And so, as the stars appeared above the forest canopy, Ethan drifted into sleep. The alien mother remained near the clearing, vigilant yet calm, watching over her pod and the human who had become her ally. The night was peaceful, filled with possibility. Ethan knew that challenges lay ahead, that the forest and its creatures could bring dangers, but he also knew that patience, intelligence, and respect would guide him. He had entered the woods to be alone, but he had discovered connection, purpose, and a new kind of companionship that promised to change his life forever. Ethan woke to the first light of dawn filtering through the trees. The forest was calm, yet the air felt different today. There was tension, a quiet sense that something was coming. As he stepped outside his cabin, he noticed fresh footprints near the edge of the clearing, larger, heavier than the alien mother's usual marks. His heart skipped a beat. The intruders had returned. He quickly scanned the forest, trying to understand their numbers and direction. He could feel the alien mother watching from the shadows, her eyes bright and alert. Without a sound, he moved to reinforce the clearing's defenses. Logs and rocks were positioned to slow any movement. He tied vines and branches to form simple barriers, each step deliberate, each placement a small strategy. The alien mother emerged from the trees, helping silently. Her movements were precise, almost graceful, and together they worked faster than Ethan could have managed alone. He marveled at her strength and intelligence. Though she could have driven the intruders away easily herself, she seemed to trust him to lead the defense. The intruders appeared as the sun climbed higher. They moved quickly, their eyes scanning, their limbs powerful. Ethan noticed how different they were from her. These creatures lacked the calm intelligence he had come to respect. They were raw, territorial, and aggressive. He felt a surge of adrenaline. He could not let them reach the pod. He took a deep breath and prepared himself, using traps and clever distractions rather than direct confrontation. He knew his advantage was in thinking, not fighting. The first encounter was tense. One of the intruders stepped onto a log trap he had set. The log swung, knocking it slightly off balance, and it growled, alerting the others. Ethan ducked behind a tree, watching carefully. The alien mother positioned herself behind a fallen branch, ready to intervene if needed. She moved only when necessary, her actions precise, showing both caution and protection. Ethan realized that together they formed an effective team. His ingenuity and her strength combined created a force the intruders had not anticipated. Hours passed with tense observation and careful movements. Ethan threw stones and sticks to mislead the intruders, guiding them away from the pod. He worked silently, relying on his understanding of the forest and his knowledge of mechanics. He created small diversions, like moving shadows and displaced branches, causing confusion among the creatures. The alien mother responded, signaling with subtle gestures and positioning herself to block any creature that might get too close. Ethan felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. This was a test of human skill and intelligence, and he was determined not to fail. At one point, an intruder broke through one of the barriers. It lunged toward the pod, and Ethan reacted instinctively. He grabbed a heavy branch and swung, forcing it back. The alien mother leapt forward, placing herself between the intruder and the pod. She did not attack aggressively, but used her strength to push it away. Ethan realized that her approach was different from his. Where he relied on cleverness and planning, she relied on precision and protective instinct. They complemented each other perfectly. The intruders eventually withdrew after a tense standoff. They lingered at the edges of the clearing, hesitant to approach further. Ethan and the alien mother watched them retreat. The pod remained safe. Ethan felt a surge of relief and pride. He had faced danger and used his mind to protect life that was not his own. The alien mother regarded him with something close to respect in her glowing eyes. For the first time, Ethan sensed a deeper connection forming, a bond forged not just through observation, but through shared defense and cooperation. Over the following days, Ethan focused on improving the defenses further. He reinforced his cabin, strengthened the clearing, and created simple alarms using hanging sticks and stones. Each improvement was designed to buy time, to alert him of any approaching danger before it reached the pod. The alien mother continued to observe from the trees, moving when necessary to assist. She left subtle markers, guiding Ethan toward weak points in the defenses he had not noticed. Together, they were creating a safe space in the middle of the forest. Despite the tension, there were moments of quiet connection. Ethan continued leaving small offerings near the pod, and she responded in kind. He would arrange fruit or stones in deliberate patterns, and she would shift them slightly, creating her own designs. It was a silent exchange, a dialogue without words, full of meaning. Ethan began to feel that he understood her not fully, but enough to trust her intentions. She was cautious, protective, and intelligent, and he had come to rely on her presence as much as she relied on his. One morning, as he worked near the stream to gather fresh water, Ethan noticed a change in the forest. The usual sounds were quieter, birds were still, and even the wind seemed muted. He froze, listening. A faint rustle reached his ears, and then he saw movement, other intruders, smaller this time, moving through the underbrush with a coordinated approach. Ethan's pulse quickened. He ran back to the clearing, gathering tools and materials to reinforce the pod's protection. The alien mother appeared immediately, her glowing eyes scanning the approaching threat. She moved with speed and precision, positioning herself to block the path without exposing the pod. The encounter that followed was intense. The smaller intruders tried to confuse and distract them. Ethan used his knowledge of the forest and quick thinking to create obstacles, swinging logs and placing rocks to slow their progress. The alien mother moved with calculated strength, guiding and protecting the pod. Ethan realized that their coordination had improved. They no longer needed words to communicate. A glance, a shift in position, or a small gesture was enough. They were learning from each other, adapting to each other's methods, and protecting what was precious together. After the intruders finally retreated, Ethan and the alien mother examined the clearing. Some damage had occurred, but the pod was unharmed. Ethan felt a deep satisfaction. He realized that his skills, combined with her presence and abilities, had created a sanctuary. He had learned that intelligence, careful observation, and patience could be as powerful as strength alone. The alien mother seemed to acknowledge this understanding, her glowing eyes lingering on him with what felt like approval. Days passed, and the forest began to feel safer, though the threat of the intruders remained. Ethan continued to refine his methods, building better barriers, creating warning signals, and maintaining the cabin. The alien mother remained close, often visible but always careful, observing and assisting as needed. Their bond grew stronger. They had formed a silent partnership based on trust, intelligence, and mutual respect. Ethan felt a sense of pride not in his strength alone, but in the ability of humans to think, adapt, and solve problems. One evening, as the sun dipped below the trees, Ethan sat near the fire outside his cabin. He looked at the alien mother who was near the clearing, her glowing eyes reflecting the firelight. He had come to the forest seeking solitude, but he realized he had found something more valuable: companionship, respect, and a shared purpose. He knew that the pod was fragile and that the forest held dangers, but he also knew that together, they could overcome them. The alien mother had taught him lessons about patience, observation, and care. He had taught her about human creativity and resourcefulness. The following days brought new challenges. Small intruders continued to appear at the edges of the forest, testing the defenses, probing for weaknesses. Ethan and the alien mother responded with a combination of intelligence and strength. They created more sophisticated barriers, used natural elements to create traps, and positioned themselves strategically. Ethan's confidence grew. He had learned to read the forest, predict movements, and act decisively. The alien mother continued to guide him with subtle cues, enhancing their efficiency and cooperation. Despite the dangers, moments of calm and wonder continued. Ethan explored the forest carefully, noting unusual plants and patterns, often leaving small offerings or markers for the alien mother. She responded with her own gestures, leaving signs of her presence and approval. These exchanges were small but meaningful. They were building understanding, not just between themselves, but between species. Ethan realized that intelligence, empathy, and patience could form bridges in ways force could not. One night, after a long day of preparation and reinforcement, Ethan lay in his loft, listening to the forest. The alien mother was nearby, her presence calm yet vigilant. He reflected on how much he had changed since arriving in the forest. He was stronger, more aware, and more patient. He had learned to trust his instincts, think creatively, and work cooperatively with a being entirely different from himself. The forest no longer felt threatening. It felt alive, supportive, and full of potential. In the days that followed, Ethan and the alien mother continued to strengthen their partnership. The pod remained safe, the forest relatively calm, and their silent communication grew richer. Ethan continued to leave offerings and create patterns, and she responded in kind. They had reached a point where trust and understanding flowed naturally, without words or hesitation. Ethan felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. He had come to the forest seeking solitude, But he had discovered connection, responsibility, and a partnership that defied ordinary understanding. As the sun set on another day, casting golden light across the clearing, Ethan stood near the pod. He watched her approach, moving with quiet confidence and care. He realized that human ingenuity and patience, combined with her strength and intelligence, had created a safe haven in the middle of the forest. For the first time, he felt a deep sense of belonging, not just to the cabin he had built, but to the life he was now sharing with the alien mother and the pod. The forest, once a place of solitude, had become a space of learning, cooperation, and wonder. And so, as darkness fell and stars began to appear above the canopy, Ethan knew that their journey was far from over. Challenges would come, new dangers would appear, but he had proven to himself, and to her, that human intelligence, patience, and courage could overcome obstacles. The alien mother remained vigilant, her glowing eyes reflecting the firelight. Together, they had begun to build a story of trust, partnership, and coexistence. Ethan had entered the forest to be alone, but he had found connection, purpose, and a shared mission that promised to shape the days and nights to come. The morning sun barely filtered through the thick forest canopy when Ethan woke to an uneasy feeling. Something was different. The air felt heavier, the usual sounds of birds and rustling leaves quieter than usual. He stepped outside his cabin, scanning the clearing and the surrounding forest. His instincts, honed over weeks of solitude and observation, told him that a new threat had arrived. He noticed faint disturbances in the underbrush and irregular footprints, smaller than the alien mother's, but clearly not human. These creatures were not like the ones he had seen before. They were faster, sharper, and more coordinated. Ethan's mind raced. He quickly checked the clearing and the pod. Both were unharmed, but he knew that protection now required more than simple barriers. He gathered tools, logs, and vines, preparing to reinforce the defenses. The alien mother appeared silently at the edge of the clearing, her glowing eyes fixed on him. She moved with calm precision, nudging logs into place, signaling where obstacles should be strengthened. Ethan felt a surge of respect and trust. He realized that they were a team now. His intelligence and her strength complemented each other perfectly. The creatures advanced cautiously, testing the perimeter of the clearing. Ethan watched them closely, analyzing their behavior. They were curious, almost calculating, but aggressive in intent. He quickly improvised, placing logs to redirect their movement and arranging stones to create noise traps. The alien mother adjusted positions silently, guiding the intruders toward areas where they would be slowed or distracted. Ethan marveled at her intelligence. She was not acting blindly. Every action was deliberate, every movement calculated to protect her pod. Hours passed in tense silence. Ethan and the alien mother worked without pause, anticipating the intruders' next moves. They were testing each other's patience and skill. Ethan used his knowledge of balance and leverage to create obstacles that would topple if disturbed, while she moved with incredible strength to position larger logs that he could not handle alone. Together, they were forming a web of protection, a combination of human ingenuity and alien precision that the intruders could not easily overcome. At one point, a smaller intruder broke through a section of the barrier. It lunged toward the pod, and Ethan reacted instantly, throwing a heavy branch to block it. The alien mother leapt forward, positioning herself between the creature and the pod. She did not strike aggressively. Instead, she used her body and strength to redirect it away. Ethan realized then that she trusted his decisions and actions, even in the heat of danger. He felt a surge of confidence. They were learning from each other, adapting in real time, creating a defense far stronger than either could have achieved alone. The intruders eventually retreated temporarily, circling the clearing from a distance. Ethan and the alien mother used this brief pause to reinforce their defenses. He repaired sections of the cabin and added extra layers of protection around the pod. She moved among the trees, checking for vulnerabilities he might have missed. Ethan realized that this was not just a battle for survival. It was a lesson in strategy, observation, and cooperation. Every action mattered, and every mistake could be costly. As night fell, the forest grew still. Ethan and the alien mother took a moment to rest, though neither truly let their guard down. The pod pulsed softly with light, a reminder of what they were protecting. Ethan sat by the fire outside his cabin, reflecting on the events of the day. He felt a deep connection not only to the alien mother, but also to the forest itself. He had come seeking solitude, but now he understood that life was about connection, trust, and shared purpose. The alien mother's presence was a constant reminder of this truth. Over the next few days, the intruders tested their defenses repeatedly. Each encounter was slightly different, forcing Ethan and the alien mother to adapt. Ethan built small traps that could alert him of movement, using rocks, sticks, and even water from the stream to create sound signals. The alien mother guided him with subtle gestures, showing him where to place obstacles and when to hold back. Their teamwork grew stronger. Ethan realized that human ingenuity, combined with careful observation and patience, could create solutions even against a stronger and more aggressive force. During this period, Ethan also took time to learn more about the alien mother. He observed her behavior, noting her careful movements and how she interacted with the pod. She was protective but gentle, cautious but intelligent. Ethan began to see her not as a mysterious creature, but as a being with emotions, logic, and a sense of responsibility. Their silent communication continued through gestures and patterns, each learning from the other. He felt a growing admiration and respect for her. One afternoon, while checking the outer perimeter, Ethan noticed something unusual. The intruders were no longer approaching randomly. They were organized, moving in patterns that suggested planning and coordination. Ethan realized that the threat was escalating. He rushed back to the clearing to inform the alien mother. She appeared instantly, understanding immediately. Together, they prepared for a more intense confrontation. Ethan reinforced barriers, created additional obstacles, and positioned tools and logs strategically. The alien mother moved silently among the trees, anticipating the intruders' approach and adjusting defenses as needed. The battle that followed was intense. The intruders advanced cautiously, testing the barriers and the team's responses. Ethan used his knowledge of leverage and movement to slow their progress. He rolled logs, placed rocks, and created noise diversions. The alien mother moved with strength and precision, intercepting any intruder that approached too closely. Ethan marveled at her intelligence and control. She was protective, precise, and strategic. Together, they created a defense that neither could have achieved alone. After hours of tense confrontation, the intruders finally withdrew, retreating to the edges of the forest. Ethan and the alien mother assessed the clearing. Minor damage had occurred, but the pod remained safe. Ethan felt a deep sense of relief and accomplishment. They had faced a superior threat and prevailed through intelligence, strategy, and cooperation. He realized that human creativity, combined with the alien mother's strength and insight, was a powerful combination. The bond between them had grown stronger through shared challenge and mutual respect. The following days were quieter, allowing Ethan to repair and improve the cabin and defenses. He continued to leave small offerings and create patterns for the alien mother, and she responded in kind. Their silent communication grew richer, conveying trust, gratitude, and understanding. Ethan felt a sense of purpose and fulfillment. He had come to the forest seeking solitude, but he had found connection, responsibility, and partnership. The pod remained safe, and the alien mother's presence was a constant reminder of the importance of care and vigilance. Ethan also noticed changes within himself. He was calmer, more patient, and more aware of his surroundings. He had learned to think quickly, adapt to new situations, and observe without reacting impulsively. His confidence in his abilities grew, but he remained humble in the face of the alien mother's strength and intelligence. Together, they had created a balance, human ingenuity and patience paired with alien precision and power. The forest was no longer just a place of solitude. It was a shared space of learning, growth, and mutual respect. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan stood near the clearing and watched the alien mother. She moved carefully, tending to the pod, her glowing eyes reflecting the fading light. Ethan realized that this quiet vigilance was as important as any trap or barrier. Protection required patience, observation, and understanding of the environment. He felt a deep admiration for her methods and intentions. The bond they had formed was stronger than words could describe, a partnership of trust, respect, and shared purpose. In the following days, Ethan and the alien mother continued to fortify their defenses. They anticipated potential threats, adjusted obstacles, and refined their methods. The intruders continued to probe the forest, but they were met with increasingly sophisticated obstacles. Ethan felt a growing sense of pride in his own abilities, but more importantly, he felt respect for the alien mother. She had taught him that strength alone was not enough. Intelligence, care, and patience were equally vital. The pod remained the center of their focus. Ethan observed its delicate glow, understanding that it represented a fragile new life. He continued to leave small offerings nearby, and the alien mother adjusted them carefully. They had established a silent rhythm, a dance of protection and communication that neither had experienced before. Ethan felt a sense of purpose he had never known. He was no longer just a man in the forest. He was a guardian, a partner, and a friend to a being entirely different from himself. As night fell, Ethan sat by the fire, reflecting on the journey so far. He had entered the forest seeking solitude, but he had discovered connection, cooperation, and responsibility. The alien mother remained vigilant, her presence both comforting and inspiring. Ethan realized that their story was far from over. The forest held more challenges, more mysteries, and more opportunities to learn and grow. But he was ready. Together, they had proven that intelligence, patience, and courage could overcome even the most formidable threats. The next morning brought calm after the intense days of defense. Ethan and the alien mother moved carefully through the clearing, inspecting barriers and adjusting where necessary. The pod pulsed softly, a constant reminder of what they were protecting. Ethan felt a sense of peace and determination. He knew that future challenges would come, but he also knew that together they were capable of meeting them. Human ingenuity, combined with alien strength and wisdom, had created a sanctuary in the forest, a place where life could thrive and trust could grow. Days turned into weeks. The forest returned to a rhythm of quiet observation and careful preparation. Ethan continued his work, reinforcing the cabin and refining his traps. The alien mother remained near the pod, moving silently and deliberately. Their silent communication deepened, conveying not just trust but understanding, gratitude, and respect. Ethan realized that this partnership was more than survival. It was a lesson in cooperation, empathy, and the power of intelligence to protect and nurture life. As the sun set on another day, Ethan stood near the clearing, watching the alien mother tend to the pod. He understood now that their bond was unbreakable. Together, they had faced danger, learned from each other, and created a safe haven in the forest. Ethan had entered seeking solitude, but he had found purpose, connection, and a shared mission that would shape the days and nights to come. The forest, once a place of quiet isolation, had become a space of learning, growth, and harmony, a testament to human resilience, intelligence, and the power of trust between two very different beings. The forest was quiet in the early morning. Ethan woke to the soft light filtering through the leaves and the gentle rustle of the trees. The clearing looked peaceful, but he knew better than to trust appearances completely. The intruders could return at any moment, and the alien mother remained alert near the pod. Her glowing eyes reflected the soft sunlight as she scanned the forest, her body tense but controlled. Ethan felt a sense of determination. They had come a long way together, but the forest still held dangers that would test them. Ethan checked the pod carefully. It pulsed softly with light, delicate and vulnerable, yet full of life. He smiled, feeling proud of what they had protected. The alien mother watched him, and he noticed a subtle shift in her posture, a sign of approval or gratitude. Over time, their silent communication had grown more meaningful. Each gesture, glance, or movement carried understanding. Ethan realized that he had come to see her as more than a protector. She was a partner, a teacher, and a friend. Together, they had created a sanctuary in the forest. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed through the trees. Ethan froze. The intruders had returned. This time, they moved with more precision, more coordination, and more aggression. Ethan's heart raced. He knew they were stronger than before. He looked at the alien mother. She stood at the edge of the clearing, her glowing eyes fixed on the forest, ready to respond. Ethan felt a surge of courage. They had faced these creatures before, and they had survived. Now it was time to defend the pod once again. The intruders entered the clearing cautiously. Ethan moved quickly, using logs, rocks, and vines to create obstacles that would slow them down. He placed noise-making traps strategically to alert him of their movements. The alien mother moved with incredible precision, blocking any intruder that came too close to the pod. She did not strike unnecessarily, but her presence alone was enough to make the creatures hesitate. Ethan marveled at her intelligence. She anticipated the intruders' actions and responded instantly, a partner in thought as well as in action. Hours passed in a tense battle of strategy and patience. Ethan and the alien mother worked silently, adjusting their positions and tactics with each movement of the intruders. The creatures tested their defenses repeatedly, but Ethan's clever arrangements and her strength made it impossible for them to reach the pod. He realized that the key to survival was not fighting recklessly, but using intelligence, observation, and adaptability. Together, they had created a fortress without walls, a sanctuary built on understanding and cooperation. During a brief pause, Ethan took the chance to observe the intruders more closely. He noticed patterns in their movements, small weaknesses in their approach. He shared this understanding with the alien mother through subtle gestures, pointing, tilting his head, or moving objects to signal where attention was needed. She responded immediately, adjusting her position and the placement of natural obstacles. Their coordination had become seamless. Ethan felt a deep sense of satisfaction. They were no longer simply defending the pod, they were learning from each other, growing stronger together. The intruders, realizing their usual tactics were ineffective, attempted a more direct approach. One of the larger creatures lunged toward the pod, and Ethan reacted instinctively. He grabbed a heavy branch and used it to redirect the creature away. The alien mother leapt forward, placing herself between the intruder and the pod, moving with incredible speed and precision. Together, they forced the intruder back toward the edge of the clearing. Ethan realized that their bond had grown beyond trust. They now moved as one, anticipating each other's actions without words. After hours of careful defense, the intruders finally retreated. Ethan and the alien mother remained vigilant, watching as the last shadows disappeared into the forest. The pod pulsed softly, untouched and safe. Ethan felt a deep sense of relief and pride. He had faced formidable challenges and survived through intelligence, strategy, and partnership. The alien mother regarded him with her calm, glowing eyes, and he felt a connection that went beyond words. They had built something extraordinary together, a sanctuary, a bond, and a story of cooperation between two very different beings. In the following days, Ethan focused on repairing any damage and reinforcing the defenses further. He added layers of logs and stones, created additional noise traps, and strengthened the cabin. The alien mother continued her careful watch, guiding him silently and ensuring the pod's safety. Ethan noticed subtle changes in her behavior as well. She moved more confidently around him, no longer hiding or hesitating. It was a sign of trust and recognition of their partnership. They had become a team, not just for survival, but for life itself. Ethan also spent time observing the pod. Its soft glow seemed to respond to the presence of both him and the alien mother. He realized that this small life was the reason they had come together, the center of their shared purpose. He felt a deep sense of responsibility and pride. Protecting it required patience, intelligence, and care. Every action, every decision mattered. Ethan understood that life, no matter how small or different, deserved protection and respect. As weeks passed, the forest grew calm again. Ethan and the alien mother established a rhythm. Each day involved checking defenses, observing the intruders from a safe distance, and ensuring the pod's safety. Their silent communication continued to evolve. Ethan left small patterns of stones or sticks near the pod, and she adjusted them, adding her own designs. They were exchanging thoughts and emotions without words, learning from each other and deepening their bond. Ethan felt a sense of wonder at how much they had accomplished together. One afternoon, Ethan noticed signs of movement in the distant forest. The intruders had returned again, but this time Ethan was ready. He quickly prepared the clearing, placing obstacles, arranging logs, and setting up noise traps. The alien mother moved among the trees, her eyes glowing as she watched the intruders approach. When the creatures entered the clearing, they were met with a combination of strategy and strength they had not faced before. Ethan's clever arrangements slowed their advance, and the alien mother's precision blocked any attempt to reach the pod. Hours passed in careful defense. Ethan remained focused, constantly observing and adapting. The alien mother moved silently, her presence commanding respect and caution. Together, they anticipated the intruders' moves, adjusting their tactics in real time. Ethan realized that their partnership had reached its peak. Human ingenuity and alien intelligence, combined with patience and trust, had created a force that could overcome even the most formidable challenges. The intruders eventually retreated, leaving the clearing peaceful once more. The forest settled into calm again, and Ethan allowed himself a moment of reflection. He had entered the woods seeking solitude, but he had discovered connection, responsibility, and a partnership that went beyond survival. The alien mother and the pod had changed his life. He felt a deep sense of gratitude and admiration for her intelligence, patience, and care. Together, they had created a sanctuary in the middle of the forest, a space of trust and cooperation where life could thrive. Over the following days, Ethan and the alien mother focused on strengthening their bond. They continued their silent exchanges, leaving patterns, arranging objects, and observing each other. Ethan studied her carefully, noting her methods of protection and her gentle care for the pod. He learned from her, adopting some of her techniques to improve their defenses. She, in turn, seemed to recognize his creativity and patience, adjusting her actions to complement his. Their cooperation had become seamless, a true partnership in every sense. One morning, as sunlight filtered through the leaves, Ethan decided to explore a part of the forest he had not visited before. He moved quietly, aware that the alien mother was watching from a distance. He discovered a small stream, clear and fresh, perfect for gathering water. He collected some, carefully filling containers, and returned to the clearing. The alien mother observed his actions closely, her glowing eyes reflecting her approval. Ethan realized that even small discoveries and careful preparation were part of the bond they had formed. Every action mattered. As the days turned into weeks, Ethan and the alien mother faced occasional intrusions, but their defenses and partnership had grown strong. They moved in harmony, anticipating each other's needs and responses. The pod continued to pulse softly, a symbol of life, trust, and the connection between two very different beings. Ethan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had come to the forest seeking solitude, but he had discovered something far greater: connection, purpose, and the power of cooperation. One evening, Ethan and the alien mother sat near the pod, observing the forest. The sun was setting, casting golden light across the clearing. Ethan realized that they had achieved something extraordinary. They had faced danger, learned from each other, and created a sanctuary in the forest. The alien mother remained near the pod, her presence calm and protective. Ethan felt a profound sense of admiration and respect. They had become more than allies, they were partners, sharing a mission to protect life and maintain harmony in the forest. In the following days, Ethan continued to strengthen the cabin and defenses, while maintaining the silent communication with the alien mother. Their bond had become unbreakable, built on trust, patience, and mutual understanding. The pod remained safe, and the forest felt alive with quiet harmony. Ethan knew that future challenges could arise, but he also knew that their cooperation, intelligence, and care would allow them to meet any threat. He felt confident, not just in his own abilities, but in their partnership and the bond they had forged. As night fell, Ethan lay in the loft of his cabin, listening to the sounds of the forest. The alien mother remained vigilant near the pod, her glowing eyes scanning the surroundings. Ethan reflected on the journey so far. He had entered the forest to be alone, but he had found connection, purpose, and a story of cooperation and trust that would shape his life forever. He understood that human ingenuity, patience, and courage, combined with the alien mother's strength and intelligence, had created a sanctuary where life could thrive. The next morning brought calm and a sense of renewal. Ethan checked the clearing and the pod, noting that all was safe. He watched the alien mother move carefully, tending to the pod and ensuring its safety. Their silent communication continued, conveying understanding, gratitude, and respect. Ethan realized that they had built a world within the forest where trust and cooperation were more powerful than any threat. He had learned the value of patience, observation, and intelligence, and he knew that these lessons would stay with him forever. Weeks passed with a rhythm of quiet vigilance, preparation, and silent communication. Ethan and the alien mother moved together, protecting the pod and maintaining the clearing. The forest had become a shared home, a place of safety and learning. Ethan felt a sense of fulfillment and purpose. He had come seeking solitude, but he had discovered a partnership, a bond, and a story of life that transcended boundaries. He knew that the future held challenges, but he was ready, confident in the strength of their cooperation and the power of trust. And so, as the sun set and stars appeared above the canopy, Ethan stood near the clearing, watching the alien mother tend to the pod. He realized that their journey was not just about survival. It was about connection, understanding, and the power of intelligence, patience, and care. The forest, once a place of solitude, had become a sanctuary, a space where life thrived and trust prevailed. Ethan had discovered that true strength lay not just in skill or power, but in the ability to think, adapt, and cooperate. Together, human and alien had built something extraordinary, a safe haven, a bond, and a story that would continue in the heart of the forest for years to come.